I mean, do you find when you're writing something, David, that there's almost two schools of thought on it? There's almost like the one school of thought is I'm just going to write whatever and not think about the filmmaking process, and I know that's something I'll worry about down the line, and then the world's your oyster. It took one person to write The Lord of the Rings, one person to write Harry Potter. Obviously they needed imagination and time and discipline, but all they needed was a paper and a pen or a typewriter or word processor or what have you. And then to make those films, it took thousands of man hours, visual effects, talent, money, all this sort of thing. That's almost one sort of method of writing. But when it comes to zero budget filmmaking and you're writing a script, do you almost have to think what is going to be achievable, and is the filmmaking process already in your mind when you're writing something?
Yeah, I think that's it exactly. You do have to go in with two approaches, and of course when you're doing zero budget filmmaking, you're pretty much producing, writing and directing usually, and often doing other roles as well. So in some ways that's easier. You can go from the producer's point of view, right? I've got this location for free. I'm just going to go with the principle of what can I do with a couple of people in a room? It's nice and cheap. And you work on your script to get it as watertight as possible. And then, of course, you don't want to be too creatively limited. You want to say a story in a way that is convincing, that is cinematic, but you've got to work within that limited space. So it is that trick of trying to cross away from a theatrical staged feel to something that is genuinely cinematic. That's the fun challenge, but you are approaching it really from a producer's point of view, if you like, and also the creative filmmaker's point of view.
When you wrote your first, with shorts, I tend to find it's quite easy just to put two people in a room, one person in a room, a phone conversation. There are many things you can do, and we'll discuss some of the films that we've made within that limitation. But when you wrote your first feature film, it was Till Sunset. Yeah. Did you have the idea of how am I going to make this while you were writing it, or did you just decide to write it and then deal with that later on?
I knew the location I was going to use. It was just a local woodland near where I grew up, and it was very atmospheric again, lent itself well to that cinematic quality I referred to. And then I just started building the classic, take a bunch of people out into the woods and mess them up. I took that, ran with it, and just kept working my script to be with an emphasis on dialogue, less about action, big effects, and went more for the atmospheric and psychological side, which is much more achievable on a zero budget. The total budget for Till Sunset was £3,000, so there was very little to play with.
Yeah, it was almost like you were thinking, but you set it at the most difficult time of year, I think, or difficult time of day from a technical point of view, didn't you? Because it was you had to have the sort of right look on the camera, having it set obviously at sunset or at dusk sort of thing. It made it very difficult. But
we had to shoot against the sun and all that sort of thing. A £3,000 wouldn't stretch to a generator, or
But you weren't tking of I'm going to have to build sets or anything like that, of course.